So, I'm starting the stream. Okay. Okay, so it looks like it's live. I'm gonna have my phone open to keep track of comment sections. Okay, so hello everyone. This is BlackMoonDragon here. I'm here with HiddenPatriot. He's a friend of mine. We thought we'd talk about this little discussion. A few things that I would like to get off my chest before we hop straight into the discussion. The list of messages I'm going to be showing you is technically old news, and other people have covered it. There was even a stream about it, but that stream had a bunch of people talking over each other and stuff, so I thought it would be nice to have just a two-man stream where there would be less of that going on. Furthermore, in regards to this whole Mignogna situation, personally, I do not have a horse in this race. I am neither on the kick Vic side, nor am I on the I stand with Vic side. The only reason I'm doing this is not necessarily to defend Vic or anyone. It's more to defend the notion of innocent until proven guilty, because at the very least, I think that if we're going to burn someone at the stake, we should at least have a conviction of guilt first. Another thing, I do not want any of my followers to harass the people that are being mentioned. I do not condone harassment in any way, shape, or form. This stream is being done entirely just for commentative purposes, but I repeat, I do not condone any harassing or white knighting from any of my followers on this. So with that being said, you ready to get into the discussion, HiddenPatriot?
Absolutely, let's get this done.
Okay, so I have the screen share on, and can you see the messages?
Messages. Where would that be?
If you're on the Discord page looking at our call, I have screen share on. It should be this big white screen with a list of like text messages and stuff.
Currently not seeing anything.
Huh, really? Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I'll just let me see. Maybe if I can just send you the. Okay, hold on. Let me just copy the link and paste it there. I just sent you the message.
Alright, here we go.
Okay, so ready?
Yeah, just kind of give me a second, it's loading up.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, so first of all, it starts off with this person here that's just being referred to as Person 1. They have a Twitter link, and he says this was a surprisingly refreshing move from Digi. Also, the article seemed quite good, too. And then this person named Gene, I hope I'm saying that right, says, what is the article about? And if we just scroll down, Person 1 says, super thorough overview of the Vic allegations. The allegations against Mignogna have not been proven, but logic dictates that if hundreds of people across a span of 16 years comes forward to share their stories of how they were sexually assaulted or offended by the same man, and none of these people know one another, then there is likely some truth to their claims. A normal employee in any industry would not be receiving assault allegations over a span of decades if there weren't something fishy going on. Likewise, if colleagues of this man are aware of these allegations and talk about it amongst themselves as if it's an accepted fact, then maybe that really is the case. So, on that comment, I will say this. I do think it does kind of lend some credibility when when there is a large number of when there is a large number of people involved sharing their allegations. And I do think that it does, what's the word I'm saying? It does increase the likelihood of it being true, but at the same time, I don't think that that in and of itself is definite proof that he's guilty. Also, I think that something that needs to be taken into consideration is the fact that he's a celebrity, and sometimes people will make allegations against celebrities because they know that they can make a lot of money getting them to settle out of court, because even in cases where the person is innocent, sometimes it's just easier to settle a court case than it is to, lawyer up and all of that stuff. But what are your thoughts on this, Hidden Patriot?
On the comment or just the whole thing in general?
This particular comment that we're looking at.
Well, you see, I'm kind of going back to the whole, Me Too movement that's been going around in Hollywood. I mean, if we look at that, a whole bunch of stuff has been coming out with that, with someone actually going to prison, I think. Who is he, Harvey Weinstein?
I think so.
So we know he's guilty, but now there's so many more coming out, and I think there's not a whole lot kind of going around about if any of the others are guilty or not. But it's like this, ever since that first one, this whole thing has just kind of exploded.
Yeah, and regarding the Vic situation, by the way, I think, is there a possibility that the accusations could be true? I think that there is a possibility of that, for sure. But as the person admits in the article, it has yet to be proven, but the number of allegations increase likelihood. But back on track, I think we should look at what else people have to say. This person here named Evanita, or just Evan, we'll just call him Evan for short. He says, Vic is and probably will forever be one of my favorite voice actors. Great and fun guy in person, and that's why I find any of this really hard to believe. Still, it's not my place to speak of any of this, and it sucks if it's true. I don't know the man personally, but hey, if he did any of that stuff, well, that's bad. If he didn't, man, I would be so cutthroat right now with fans and friends if I were him. So, I'd just like to bring up a point regarding this man's comment, because this one comment pretty much sparked the chain of events that we're going to be covering, particularly the stuff from Mother's Basement, the YouTuber in question here. I would like to say that his comment is very neutral. He admits that he doesn't want it to be the case that Vic is guilty, but he doesn't really claim that Vic is innocent here. He just says if he's guilty, then it's a bad thing. Can we agree that this comment was fairly neutral from the guy?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna agree, and you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and admit this early on right now. While you're neutral on the whole subject, I, for one, am more on the whole I stand with Vic's side, but this is how I exactly feel. This comment is very much how I exactly feel. If he's guilty, he's guilty. If he's innocent, he's innocent.
Okay, so, quick question. If he is guilty, do you think that he should face some punishment?
I'm sorry, what was that? You kind of cut out.
Okay, if they do have a court conviction and find evidence that he is guilty of the allegations, do you think that he should face some sort of punishment for it?
I mean, if there's substantial evidence to prove that he did it, then yes.
Okay.
But here's the thing: substantial evidence.
Okay, I'll agree to that. But okay, so I think we've established that this guy was neutral and he left it open. So let's see how people respond to him. And this person here called Kumiko, we're gonna call this person Evan. I'll just say a lot of celebs are great and fun to their fans in person, but you have to remember that that's its own performance true. Truth is, we don't know anybody based on outward-facing public personas. I've been burned enough times by celebs in the past to learn to appreciate their work without getting attached to them personally. Okay, so far I don't have a problem with it. That was fair, you know, actors are different on camera than they are in person. Person
True.
2, person 2 says, "That's where I am with Vic. I'm inclined to believe that this." Okay, wait a minute, I read this wrong. "That's where I am with Vic. I'm inclined to believe this is all true, but I'm not going to avoid the Oran dub or Hakuge something dub because he's in it." So this person here, person 2, believes that Vic is guilty. And then Gene says Evan, going back up to the neutral comment right here. This guy down here, Gene says, "Evan, did you really just say that? LOL. He was a fun guy that one time I met him. Hard to believe dozens of women. What?" Okay, so I think that this Gene person is starting a straw man here. Because the guy did leave it open. He didn't outright say that he thought Vic was innocent. But anyway, I digress. Bana Nye says, "He's saying that he saw and met him that one way, that this is shocking, and that's okay." And then Gene says, "LOL, this is why women are horrified to come out." And I'm gonna say that that is kind of stretching it, because Evan, in his comment, did not pick... I mean, he admitted that he liked Vic, but he still admitted, at least, that he was open to the possibility of the accusations being true, and that he was that he thought that it would be a bad thing if they were true. So I personally, I think that this person's over exaggerating it in their response to him. Your thoughts?
So what I'm basically getting out of this guy is he's saying that we need to believe all of these women that have come out. But what are the chances that maybe one of them, two of them, or just a handful of them are maybe just doing it to get at him because of his status as a celebrity?
Well, I do have to agree that I think that motives are important, but before we get too caught up in this, I think we should keep reading. Person 2 then says, "Come on, it's not like Evan's claim was malicious like the actual backlash I stand with Vic jerks." Okay,
Okay.
I think that there's a little bit of broad brushing here. While I'm not an I stand with Vic person, and while I do agree that there are some pretty extreme people on that side, I don't think that that's indicative of the entire movement. But anyway.
Well, to kind of just throw my 2 cents in real quick, both sides have their extremes. Some come at it
Definitely.
with a more, reasonable, approach, while there's those that just go completely unreasonable. And I think we need to kind of stop throwing all of our attention on the ones that are being completely unreasonable, because we're just giving them spotlight.
Yeah, you know, another thing, I believe Manga Common said, you know, you can't say that all the negativity is the fault of one side while ignoring the faults of your own side. And personally, this is one of the reasons why, I'm kind of trying to be neutral in this. I just want to find the truth. I
Hey,
I don't know the full story, and I don't know for certain who's innocent and who's guilty, but anyway, if we continue on this thread, um Bana Bananize says everyone has multiple faces. That there is no, well, obviously he's a monster face someone has on all the time. That's why for so many they can't believe this, or at least at first. And then Kumiko jumps in and says, I just think it's naive to assume a celeb is your friend because you met them that one time and therefore they must not be capable of such deplorable actions dozens of women are accusing them of. And while I do agree that it is naive to assume that a celeb is your friend because of one meeting, I would like to point out that Evan never actually made that claim in his comment.
yeah.
He commented that he was fun that one time he met him, but I don't think that he ever gave the implication that he thought that Vic Mignogna was his friend. So anyway, Kumiko continues, yeah, it can be hard to believe if you've been duped like so many others have. Happens. Same thing happened recently with that Hazu situation on Twitter. I do not know what that situation is, so I'm not going to comment on that. And it's okay to give people space to come to terms with that, but like, just don't close yourself off to listening to the people speaking out. And I actually agree with that. However, as we will see later in this discussion, Kumiko doesn't really practice what they preach here. So, anyway, Person 3 says, here's a question, what do both parties want? Person 4 says, I agree, but I think you tend to jump on people in a really aggressive way that is not conducive to changing someone's mind. And to be honest, I think that this is one of the first reasonable people that we're going to see in this discussion. Because, I'm all for debate and stuff, but I think that you should be constructive about it, and I think that goes both ways, no matter which side you're on in this situation. Your thoughts?
hmm Well, kind of more in regards to just person furry. I don't know if I would say both parties, as I would say there's now pretty much three parties in total,
What would the
probably
third
more.
one be?
Third one would just be the people that just want to know. They're not going to attack them. They're not going to defend them. They just want to know.
They just want to
Yeah,
know. So, in other words, you're talking about my camp.
yeah. Then you have one side that just basically wants to burn them at the stake, without so much as a shred of evidence coming out to suggest that maybe he's innocent or he's guilty. Then you have the other side, which they want him to pretty much be innocent, with the same thing, without even knowing if he's guilty or innocent.
Yeah, I do think that personally, the reason I'm hesitant to pick sides is because I think whenever you have stuff like this, it's faulty to assume innocence or guilt without knowing the full story.
And I guess I should probably rephrase one of my other things that I said about me being more of the stand with it crowd. I'm kind of more in between, the third party and the other party of him wanting to be innocent. I
So,
guess it's just more. Sorry, go ahead.
you kind of want him to be innocent, but at the same time you still acknowledge that we don't know the full story.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just not gonna jump to any wild conclusions. I just wanted the whole thing to go through the courts.
Yeah, I think really that's the only way that this is going to be resolved at this point. But anyway, back to person 4, I think that that was reasonable. You know, they did kind of jump on Evan a little too much over a neutral stance. But anyway, uh, Gene says, having people who work for me that are scared to come against powerful sports people who have harassed them makes me have little patience for this. And your minds won't be changed. Having women beg to at me, please, I can be near him. He scares me, and being scared to come forward even with company backing. So when people throw away victim testimony, I don't have patience for that. Okay, I really, I'm gonna have to call out the straw manning at this point because Evan did not dismiss victim testimony. You know, all he said was, he said he likes Vic, he hopes it's not true, he's having a hard time believing this, but if it's true, he thinks it's bad, and but I didn't hear anywhere that he was dismissing the testimonies in that comment.
It wasn't.
Yeah, and that's where I feel like this chat is starting to devolve here. But anyway, person 2 says, I think I know what Vic wants, to keep working and to do what he loves for a job, but as for what the victims want, I'm not sure. What could satisfy him besides him not working and doing what he loves for a job? But even an apology would have been a start. He's yet to really do even that.
Why would he apologize for something like that?
Well, okay. I will have to admit, if you're a person who is maintaining that you're innocent, it wouldn't really make sense to apologize.
Yeah.
And didn't he kind of apologize? Because I think one of the things that made the accusations very believable is that he's very physical and hands-on with his fans. You know, he's always hugging them and stuff. And didn't he actually do a session where he apologized for not taking people's personal boundaries into consideration and stuff?
Yeah, he did apologize that before announcing this whole thing would be going through the court.
Yeah, okay, so
So he did. So yeah, he did apologize for not really taking someone's personal boundaries into consideration. But you know, at least from what I've been seeing, this is who he is as a guy. He's just real touchy. He's real kind, and for someone, especially in the whole age of Me Too, right, someone could easily misconstrue that as some sort of advance that
yeah,
they don't want.
I I agree, but anyway, person 4 jumps back at this point and says, "Yeah, I really disagree with your approach. People's minds can be changed." And that's when Jean says, it's a statistical anomaly for women to make this up, especially when it's this many. And okay, where do we begin with this one? Um okay, sexual assault is a serious thing, and I do believe that people have the right to be believed. You know, if anyone is sexually assaulted, that's a horrible thing, and they have the right to be believed. However, I don't think it's wise to throw out the window the fact that there are some people who do make this stuff up to hurt people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which, and sorry to interrupt you, which in turn, the ones that do make it up end up hurting the ones where it's actually happened to them.
And I must say I agree. One of my big problems when it comes to false accusers is that I think that they make that when they cry wolf like that they make it hard for real victims to come forward, because then people will wonder, well, are they telling the truth? Are they faking it? What's going on? And that being
Well,
said, the only credence that this comment really has is, yeah, the number of women does tend to lend to the credibility, but even then, that by itself is not a conviction. Go on.
Yeah, well, I was gonna kind of say, like, it doesn't really make it hard for them to come out. It just makes their testimony less believable.
Okay. I see what you're saying there.
Yeah.
Not harder to come out, but harder to be believed.
Yes.
Okay. So we're in agreement on that. And then person two, who by the way admitted that they are on the Kickvic side, does defend Evan and said, by the way, Evan wasn't throwing away testimony. So see, person two believes that Vic was guilty, but even they are acknowledging that Evan wasn't being dismissive of the testimony.
Oh, logic is so hard to find these days.
Yeah, so that being said, like, even some people on the Kickvic side seem to be able to see that this was a neutral comment. But anyway, Gene replies by saying, Evan and I are cool, but the optics of what he said aren't. And once again, I really don't like the insinuation of this comment because, you know, I'm sorry. I think I'm becoming a broken record here at this point. He didn't pick sides. He just said he liked Vic. That was it. But he left it open to the fact that maybe Vic is guilty, and if it is, it's a bad thing. I don't see what's problematic about saying that.
You know what you know what this whole kind of seems like?
Oh, what's that?
To me, it just all seems like all he read was that, oh, I like Vic. Everything else, he hasn't even really bothered to even really
Well, given the
read.
amount of straw manning that's been going on, I would say so.
I mean, to me, it looks like he hasn't even really bothered to read or even bother to really analyze any of what the other person has said. It's like he just got fixated on the words "I like Vic." That just automatically triggered something. No pun intended.
Yeah, but anyway, person person 4 says, I would know. I've harbored toxic mentalities and I've had them changed by the right approach from some leftist YouTubers like Contra and PhilosophyTube.
Okay.
And Evan, who, you know, whose comment started the chain of events, says, "Whoa, no, LOL." And Gene says that's honestly amazing to hear, and Evan cuts back in and says, I didn't even imply that. I think he's talking about the whole being accused of throwing away the testimony of the victims. But anyway, Kumiko says some people's minds won't be changed. However, I don't think that applies to people in here. And then person 3 says, if they can't be changed, there is no point in trying to change those. I'm sorry, it just kind of runs together. If they can't be changed, then there's no point in trying. I don't disagree with that. Change those who can then. I don't disagree with that. And then Kumiko kind of devolves into name calling by saying, yeah, I just don't engage with those expletive heads. So, in other words, they don't even... This person's admitting that they don't bother to engage with the other side. And, you know, who knows? It is a tough topic. I know that this is very touchy, so maybe it's just difficult, but still, the name calling here doesn't really help their case.
Nope, it doesn't.
Let's see. Gene says, my mentions are on fire with right-winged weirdos, and Evan says, I just... Yeah, I
Okay, I'm
know.
sorry.
I really didn't want... I really still would try to keep this apolitical, but this chat is making it hard to. But anyway, Evan says, I just basically said he was a cool dude, and it does suck if he did those things. there are horrible people in this world, and most of them are hard to spot because they seem so good. Don't want to
True.
compare him to a serial killer, but it's definitely one of those situations where he could just be a really great sociopath, and that is terrifying in its own right. So
Wow.
he's reevaluated that he's open to the thought that he could be guilty. And ba- Bana Bananize says, that's what I was trying to say earlier as well. Everyone has multiple faces. And then Evan says, I'm not trying to dismiss anything here. I never thought you were, Evan. I agree that a decade's worth of allegations is definitely worth believing. If it were one or two, I'd be skeptical for sure, but even if some of your colleagues think you're doing some weird stuff, I'm inclined to believe them. I just still personally find it overall hard to believe that someone I'm a fan of would do that. That's what I meant. Don't get mad at me, lol. You know, I
Yeah.
must say, this person is surprisingly calm given how much they were taken out of context earlier. But your thoughts so far on this, man?
Without trying to get political, at what point into this chat so far in which any of these people commenting have even indicated that they affiliate with the right?
You know, that's another problem I have with this whole fiasco. I really think that this shouldn't have been a left-right thing, to be honest.
And it shouldn't. It's merely of, like what you said, this is about being innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, but
We just want to know if what he did was actually true, and if it is, he gets punished. If he isn't, then he walks free. This isn't a left or right issue.
yeah, but I'm gonna warn you, I read ahead last night just to get mentally prepared. It gets worse.
Oh gosh.
Gene
Alright.
responds to Evan by saying, I just think it's funny how people are hedging if he did do it. And like with OJ Simpson, we don't say if, we say he killed that lady. Okay,
Okay.
can I
Okay.
just say that that was only after they had evidence that proved that he did it, though?
Yes.
But anyway, with Derek Rose and Kobe, it's they raped those women because the legal system is a effing mess, and we as people can see what is and isn't reality. So, in other words, we the people are more insightful than a courtroom. And wait, I'd like to just say the legal system is a mess because those people were convicted of crimes. I'm really having trouble here with what this person is trying to say. It's not clear to me.
Now, I haven't really been keeping up with a whole lot, but who is Derek Rose and Kobe? Like,
Okay,
if
I'm gonna look it up on my phone right now.
because if Kobe, who I think it is, like basketball player Kobe, then
I typed in Derek and Rose was the first thing that came up. Let's see. For Minnesota Timberwolves, he played 1 year college basketball for Memphis Tigers before he.
they went.
Let's see.
Kobe must be another basketball player then.
Yeah, let's see. Let me see. Maybe if I type in rape allegations.
But yeah, basically what you said, like, what this guy saying, like, because the legal system is a mess. It's like I will agree, our legal system is a little bit
Not as good as it could
mess.
be.
Yeah, it's not as good as it could be, so I will admit that. But kind of like he said, he's saying it's a mess because people got convicted.
Yeah,
Because that's
I'm trying to. I want to say I think I know what they're saying, but at the same time, the way that this person worded it made it very, very unclear.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Brings his past under scrutiny. What does it? Those two things may in conflict. He's a standout player. Da da da. Now he's back. Prosecutors never filed criminal charges. His accuser sued, and a jury did not find him liable. Yet the accuser also challenged that judgment, and court hears her appeals. Da da. So. Yeah, well, anyway, I think this is taking too long. Anyway,
Well, I get.
what are you saying?
I guess the best thing to say is that we just don't know anything about the
Yeah,
whole
like
Derek Rose and Kobe thing.
yeah, I mean at
So
least in the O.J. Simpson case, they actually, it wasn't just, "Oh, this guy must be guilty." I'm pretty sure that that had to do with actually having evidence and stuff. It wasn't just accusations that put him away.
yeah. All right. Well, we go ahead and move on to the next one.
Yeah, but anyway, Person 2 says, "It's as if these goons were asleep for the entire Me Too movement, or at the very least, it never happened to someone they remotely cared about before until now."
Gosh, okay.
Kumiko says, "It's not a personal reflection on you to realize they're a piece of blank human, especially when all you have to go off is their work and one interaction." Um, Jean says, "I know you don't mean wrong, but all the hedging looks and feels bad." Hedging, like really? Like here's what's coming off. You have to either the way that Jean is talking here, they're making it sound like you have to believe the accusers or you're in the wrong. But that's not how justice works. Justice is supposed to be blind. You don't assume guilt before you even had a hearing.
So sorry to kind of go a little off on this, but so basically, I'm supposed to believe someone that broke into someone's house because they were in the right, even though the guy who owns the home beat him up in self-defense.
I'm not sure if that's the right analogy to use for this situation. It
Yeah,
sounds like it's just a sort of believe accusers kind of thing.
yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. Then my analogy was absolutely terrible. I do apologize for that.
That's okay. But anyway, moving on. Evan says, "All right, just making sure we're cool. I ain't trying to make enemies here, lol." Um, Jean says, "We are cool. I tell you this because I respect you." And this is where the big YouTuber Mother's Basement comes in.
Oh, okay.
And and here's the thing, with this guy is pretty influential. I mean, he has a huge following. If I just look up his YouTube channel right now, um, he has an audience of 817,000 subscribers. Um,
Ooh, okay.
so he's pretty popular. He has a lot of influence. He's officially sponsored by Crunchyroll. And I feel like the way he responds to this is somewhat irresponsible. But anyway, he posts a tweet by Funimation saying, "Everyone, we wanted to give you an update on the Vic Mignogna situation. Following an investigation, Funimation recast Vic Mignogna in this show that I cannot pronounce. Funimation will not be engaging Mignogna in future productions." And then Mother's Basement continues by saying, "Funimation concluded after their initial investigation that Vic is no longer hireable. That's probably as close to a conviction as we are going to see. But I'd like...
What?
Yeah, I know. But I'd like to say that is not a conviction, okay? Funimation is a company that has to consider, what's good for their brand. And for all we know, this might just be their way of trying to distance themselves from the controversy. You know, that isn't necessarily the same thing as a conviction, though.
And one thing I do also want to say real quick is I would like for everyone to also not attack Funimation for this, because
Yes, yes.
what like BlackMoonDragon said, they're a company, so they have to protect what's in their best interests.
And
We
even though I am kind of calling out Mother's Basement here, do not go after him either. I do not condone any of that stuff. But did you have any more to say on that?
no, just go ahead and go on.
Okay, well, anyway, Evan then says, well, looks like he actually did an oopsie. I'm not trying to undermine what he did, but what a horrible mess this entire thing has been. Person 2 says, hopefully that's the nail in the coffin. Like I said, this is not the same thing as a conviction, so... Mother's Basement then says, it won't be, sadly. Blind fans and misogynists will continue defending him, harassing every woman who spoke up, and squawking innocent until proven guilty forever. Oh my gosh, where do we begin with this?
But that's how the legal system is supposed to work.
Okay, so quick question. Innocent until proven guilty. First of all, I don't see why that's a bad thing. That's a basic part of that's a basic part of democracy, you know? You can't just presume that someone's guilty before you hear them out. I mean, come on. And then okay, while I do agree that it is kind of weird to completely defend him when we don't know if the accusations are true or false, the harassing women part, yeah, I can admit that some people are going too far on the stand with Vic's side when it comes to countering the accusations. Sure, I can agree with that. But really conflating defending him as a whole to being a misogynist?
That's wow, that's painting someone with a real big brush.
Yeah, I think that this is a lot of broad brushing. But anyway, Kumiko says, yep, just look at the replies. Person 2 says, well, thankfully there ain't nothing they can remotely do about it. It'll be old news sooner or later. Outrage culture always numbs with time.
Wow.
And then Kumiko says, the thing is, no amount of evidence, whatever that means, will ever satisfy these people. They're acting in bad faith. Okay, now that I think is going too far. Okay, maybe, you know, that statement would have been stronger if it weren't for the fact that a lot of evidence has been fabricated. Like, that one person claiming that Vic's supporters had her swatted and then proceeded to show photos from 2016 before this even became a public controversy. You know, like, I really fail to see what evidence has been presented here in this entire discussion that should be considered convincing. And if anyone has any evidence and they'd like to share it with me, then I'm open, but... Anyway...
just to kind of keep in mind, for anyone that might be viewing this, by no means are we both legal experts, so take everything we say with a grain of salt.
Yes, I'm no expert on this. I'm just giving my thoughts here. But anyway, Bananai says, here's video proof. Well, how do we know that that wasn't staged? Or okay. This is a really big straw man scenario here. Where has there ever been video proof that the allegations were true? Like, come on. If you have a video, then please, by all means, release it, but...
Put a link in the chat, at least.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys... have video proof. Put a link. I will look through it, and if it's damning evidence, I will concede that he's guilty.
And also would help a lot better for anyone that does provide a link. Make sure that all the links are just not from one source, but at least multiple sources.
Yeah, I agree.
Please.
Anyway, let's see. We can skip the next few comments, but anyway, Duo Review, who I think is the voice of reason in this chat, comes in and says, okay, so I don't talk much on here, and I don't care about the Vic stuff. I just want to say something. Since normally this chat is respectful, but that was not the case earlier. I also want to note that these are purely my opinions. So anyways, back to what I wanted to say. So earlier, Subtitled went after Evan for essentially nothing and misinterpreted his statement and decided that that was fair grounds for attacking him. Thank you. Finally somebody acknowledges it. It would be nice if in the future these engagements could be more respectful. I understand that this is a heated topic for some people here, but that's no reason to be rude to someone, especially after misinterpreting their statements. I would prefer if this chat could stay nice. So, right there, I think that that comment was spot on. They nailed it on the head. It was a spot on comment. Would you not agree to that?
Very spot on. I think this person couldn't have summed it up any better than probably you or me can.
Yeah. I mean, Evan was neutral. He didn't pick sides too much. It was all just... By the way, I'm sending you a message that we may bring up later in the stream. Anyway, I think he's right. They were unfair to Evan. They took him out of context. They accused him of being dismissive of the accusations, even though he wasn't. And this person, I think, is totally on the money here. But anyway, this person here... Oh my gosh. Dude, couldn't you have picked a better, an easier to pronounce username? But anyway, Cephorus, I think I'm saying that wrong, says...
Let's just call him C for short.
Okay, C says, I'm also quite put off at the idea that simply calling for an investigation and upholding innocent until proven guilty is grounds for being called right-wing, alt-right, or in the case of Mike Toole from ANN, a Nazi. And I have to agree with that too. I really don't think that innocent until proven guilty should be a right-left sort of thing.
It honestly should.
Yeah, like seriously, that... I don't see how that can't be bipartisan, but anyway, Kumiko says there was an investigation and still it's not enough for these people.
It's still an ongoing investigation.
Yeah, it's ongoing, unless you're talking about Funimation, but anyway, C says, first of all, those terms were thrown around before the investigation. Second, Funimation claiming they investigated is not the same thing as the police investigating. Thank you.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah. And then,
right?
Oh gosh, here is honestly one of the worst comments that we're gonna get into. Mother's Basement has the following to say. It's also worth recognizing that people who demand others withhold judgment until an actual judge gets involved and throw around innocent until proven guilty often are right-wing. They often do harass people making accusations and those who defend them. There's a correlation there, and when someone deals with those people constantly, it's often easier for them to assume anyone presenting those talking points is acting in bad faith. You know, I think that was given this guy's influence in the community, I think that was a really irresponsible thing to say. Like...
Do you mind if I kind of say something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Alright. Well, I'm kind of saying it, but not really. I mean, I don't really affiliate too much with the right on a whole lot of things. But when it comes until innocent until proven guilty, again, it should be a right or a left issue. But the reason why those on the other side, you know, are also about the whole until innocent until proven guilty is because throwing around wild accusations such as, "Oh, this person sexually harassed me." I mean, how can you prove that? Are we supposed just to take their word for it?
And that's, I think, my point, that, sexual assault is a bad thing, but I don't think that we should do convictions via taking people's word for it. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time someone has been destroyed by false allegations, and I think
Uh,
that's why I think it's really important that we let the courts settle this, not some randos on Twitter.
yes.
But seriously, first of all, innocent until proven guilty is perfectly reasonable. You can't just convict somebody without evidence. Secondly, trying to make this a right-wing issue, what the heck, man? Seriously. That and
And
even if
also,
it was a right-wing sort of thing, that doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong, though, like
and
either
another thing.
either
I'm
side can have
sorry.
their rights and wrongs, but go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say it's like in regards to the whole harassing people making the accusations. While there are those that do indeed make like do harass those, uh, what have well, at least from what I've been seeing, isn't it usually the other side that does it too? I mean,
You
not
know,
saying one is not like I'm not saying one side is better than the other, but
I'd like to bring back, I mentioned Manga Commons saying that, you can't put all of the blame on one side without admitting the faults of your own. I think that that's a good point. Now, I do think there are people on the I Stand with Vic side that are harassing some of the accusers and stuff. I don't deny that. However, you have to admit that there are people on the Kick Vic side who are also doing some harassing themselves. And, I don't think that either side can really take the moral high ground here, in my personal opinion.
yeah, like you just can't go and tell the other side, well, your excrement stinks, while also saying, well, mine doesn't.
Yeah, yeah. It's, uh,
And anyways,
well, I also, my final point on this particular comment, I think it's really disingenuous to say that someone saying innocent until proven guilty is acting in bad faith.
it,
I, at
it's
that
not.
point, it kind of starts to sound like you have an agenda. But
We
anyway,
can we could probably go into a whole big topic about that, but I don't think this isn't the time or the place for it.
yeah. Well, anyway, uh, Kumiko says, uh, Gianni has nothing to apologize for. To be perfectly frank, I don't care about the feelings of anyone here regarding this. Well, you're off to a good start here. I find it honestly alarming that being nice should take precedence of concern and respect for the women speaking about their experiences with this tool.
Okay. Well, that didn't last.
Oh my gosh. Well, dude, I think that in any of this discussion, that being nice should take precedence. Hearing each other out, listening to what both sides have to say. I think that being nice is very important. But when you take up this attitude, it's really kind of hostile. I mean, anyway. This person is going to say something later that kind of is really damning, but anyway, mothers Basement continues by saying these talking points also contribute to the atmosphere of women being afraid to speak out, whether that's your intent or not. You know, I think that women and anyone who's a victim of sexual assault or anyone who has allegations has the right to be heard. I really do. But I don't think you have the right for your word to be, just taken at face value. And I think that that's a big problem with this whole situation. I don't think that we should take the accuser's words at face value any more than we should take Vic's words at face value. Your thoughts on this?
You pretty much summed it up for me.
Okay, but anyway, Gene says, when do cops ever help these things?
Oh, okay.
Okay. You put faith in a legal system that historically sucks at these cases, and an institution that is misogynistic and filled with toxic
Uh,
masculine. Oh, great. Now we're getting into feminist buzzwords here.
hey everyone, let's play a drinking game. First one to spout the SJW wins.
Okay, so. Okay, yeah, I'll admit the legal system isn't perfect, but when do
But
cops ever help kind of implies that they never do, and that is definitely a false statement. Well, yes, they don't nail the hammer on the head. They don't get the nail on the head 100% of the time. I would say that it's false to say that they never help, or at least imply that. Anyway, duo review.
so
Oh, I'm sorry, you were
I
gonna say?
I was gonna say, so he. I mean, I mean, how should I say this? I mean, there is bad apples in law enforcement. That they're just doing it for the power, they're doing it for the money. But there are those that genuinely do care about the community, and do want to make a difference.
I met
Yeah.
a detective who was like that.
So are there ones that are bad? Yes, there are, and that's why it's important that those ones should be weeded out. But we should also be highlighting the good that's in law
I,
enforcement.
I don't think that you can, like, say that it's 100% good or bad. I think
Yeah.
that this is a grayer area.
Yeah.
Anyway, Duo Review says Evan has nothing to apologize for because his statement spoke for itself and it wasn't a problem. And I think being nice should take precedence in a case where nothing was done wrong. Gene follows up by saying, legal system lets rapists go all the time. All the time.
Hold on. Hold on. Yes and no. And this is where it's gonna sound a little bit bad. If like the ones that are repeat offenders, they go to jail. All right, I know that for I know that like for somewhat of a fact. But ones that are like a first time thing, like where it's like, let's say indecent exposure or whatnot. Guess what? They get slapped with a ankle bracelet, and they're still allowed to walk free. I'm sorry, but the way I see it, they should all go to prison. Life in prison.
I can agree with that. I also kind of agree that this is more of a middle ground. Does the legal system let rapists go? I'm pretty sure. I mean, they obviously don't catch everyone, but people have been in prison for this stuff.
Again, it's
I think
perfect,
that
but
this
it's
is
not
kind of I
perfect.
think that the person is overblowing the statement here. If they
It's,
would have actually kind of provided some statistical evidence for this or something, that would have been
yes.
nice. They just kind of made the claim, but they didn't back it up. But anyway, Kumiko says, oh gosh.
I think we all know who he's talking about.
Especially white rapists in position of power. Citation needed.
I think we all know who he's referring to, but
And I'm not gonna open that can of worms.
Yep.
Anyway, Jean says people of color and women and gender non-conforming people get abused by the legal system and shafted on investigations.
What? Does he have anything to back that up?
Does it happen? I'm sure it does, but, you know, when it comes to these types of debates, you know, if you're going to make a statement like that, I would really, really appreciate if you could back up your statement with some proof. You know, I'm really not a fan of taking what people say at face value. Anyway, Mother's Basement says, and this I think is kind of bizarre here, when a company with hundreds of thousands or more invested in an actor's brand investigates him and cuts ties, frankly, I'm inclined to believe that. Maybe more than a court case. So...
What?
Yeah, I that was my reaction too. Let me get this straight here. You mean to tell me that Funimation is more credible than a court case?
Wow, I guess I need to start going to Funimation then.
Yeah, forget being a lawyer. Get a job at Funimation, apparently. Yeah, let's just let Funimation take over the court system here.
And also to kind of throw in, he obviously does not understand how business works. The reason why they did it was to protect, like I said again, to protect their own interests. Because something like
they might just be distancing themselves from the controversy.
Yes.
Can I just create a scenario to prove a point here?
Go ahead.
Okay, so did you know that Mother's Basement is a big sponsor of Crunchyroll?
I think you mentioned that.
Yeah, I think I did earlier. Let's put this scenario forward. Let's say that Mother's Basement is wrongfully accused of sexual harassment. And let's say that this gains a lot of traction and it really blows up. And for the sake of argument, let's say that the accusations are false. But Crunchyroll has a dilemma, and being associated with him creates a problem for their brand, so they decide to cut ties with him, drop him as a sponsor, and just stop associating with him altogether. You see where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah.
You know, he could very well end up in the same situation that Vic is, depending on the nature of controversies. But anyway, Jean says, you simply don't believe the victims if you don't feel what we have is adequate, and there is a problem. But how is that a problem, you know? Isn't the whole point of believing a testimony that they have to have adequate evidence? Isn't that kind of the whole point?
Yes.
And then what Mother's Basement says is kind of telling. He says, not that I wasn't inclined to believe the accusers beforehand. And that right there, I think, is the real problem. He's really quick to just believe the accusers without really knowing the full story or the full situation. And
a lot could be said about that, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think that it's really flawed to pick sides this early.
Yeah, I mean, it's still way too early, and again, for anyone that'll be viewing this that doesn't really know a whole lot about how the courts work, for something like this, because I think because it's what, March? So literally, like, last month, which was February, was when Vic announced he was taking this whole thing to court. This is something that could take quite a few years for it to fully go through the legal system.
Yeah, well, it'll probably be a few years before we really find out what happened, to be honest.
Yeah, because this is something in which they gotta literally take a huge puzzle piece and slowly put the pieces together.
Yeah, but this just goes back to what I said earlier. You know, you can't just assume someone's guilty with before they've been proven guilty. But anyway, Jean says this is why women wait so long to come forward. And then Jean says every time there is something you men want more, 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 and more, you want effing everything. You want women to wear a body cam at all effing times. It's absurd and honestly reeks of privilege. Okay,
Okay.
more strawmen
Okay. Okay.
more strawmen to deal with. Okay,
Hold on. Is this even a he or a she?
I don't know. I don't know the gender
Well,
of all of these
well,
people.
well. I guess it's safe to say let's not assume.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make any assumptions, but
But one thing I do want to say is saying like how he wants he
or
wants
she.
for us to, yeah, like with him with this person saying that we want all women to wear like a body cam, like what does he mean? What kind of body cam? Like ones that you find on
Like,
police officers?
I think that's the one that they're talking about.
When did we ever say that though?
I think
No
that
one
this
is
is just an
no one is,
over-exaggeration here.
no one is saying that. And privilege? What privilege?
Well,
Like,
I
uh,
if I could cut in if you don't mind. I don't think that it's just asking more, you know, to say that I think that we should have some really compelling evidence before we burn him at the stake, you know? I don't think that that's I don't think that that is the same thing as wanting more per se, the way at least the way this person is portraying it.
can I also say something really quick?
Sure.
If like with what some people want, or I shouldn't, or I don't know if I should say want, but if something happens to you, I know for many it's hard to come forward and acknowledge what happened. But bear in mind, the more you wait, the less likely.
The harder it is to believe. You know,
Yeah,
I will say
like,
this. I understand it really is hard, and you know,
and
I have not been in that position before, so you know, maybe I just can't relate to it. I'll acknowledge that up front, but
and
I
you know, and I'm sorry.
I really would like to say that if you are a victim of this kind of thing, you know, I know it's hard, but please really try to muster up the courage to get it out in the open as soon as possible, because bear in mind that that person, if they did it to you, could do it to other people, and in the time that you wait, you know, that person is still on the loose. And
Yeah.
I know it's a hard, I know it's not an easy thing to deal with, and I truly do have sympathy for anyone who's had to deal with that. But I'm sorry, you were gonna say something, Patriot?
I was going to say, like, I'm not saying that when it does happen, you need to immediately say something. Like, do it if you feel like you have to. Don't do it because we say you should.
That's
That
also
strength,
a fair statement.
that strength and that courage needs to come from within you.
Well, I I guess I guess we should continue here. We're about halfway through this stuff. Duo says, "What does any of this have to do with what I said?" Bananai says, "What Duo is asking for here." And bear in mind, Bananai's earlier said that they were on the kick Vic side, or that they believed that Vic was guilty. Bananai's actually agrees with Duo and says what Duo is asking for here is when somebody has a different viewpoint, you don't immediately go after them. Talk about it respectfully. That's all I ask as well. And I think that that is really fair, and I think it's really mature that even though they have different opinions, it seems, that they can come to an agreement that the discussion should remain respectful. And I think, if anything, this is proof that people on opposite sides can have a civilized discussion. So, that being said, Kumiko says, and remember I said that at one point Kumiko was going to say something really damning that kind of throws everything they said under scrutiny? Here is that comment. Kumiko says, I am not here for different viewpoints when it comes to this matter. Sorry.
So why is he even in the chat? Why not just go into a chat where it's more about the whole
Kumiko
kick?
might actually be a she, I think, but anyway, I have to agree. I think at this point they admitted more or less that they have an agenda here. They're not interested in hearing both sides. This person is only interested in Vic is guilty and you have to believe that Vic is guilty. They're not open to any other possibility. And Jean kind of pours more gasoline on the fire by saying, you guys keep making the conversation not this dude is bad, and that's a effing problem. But here's the thing, you know, we have court cases for a reason, you know, we can't just assume that Vic is bad, you know, without proper conviction. Like, anyway, Bananai says, it's not about this matter, just in general, what Duo is saying, you know. Person 4 says, where the heck did this conversation for? And C says, unbelievable. You take the position of the extremist fans harassing the ones speaking out against Vic and ascribe that motive to everyone else who isn't as woke as you. I'm absolutely disgusted at how dismissive that is. And I think that this person has a point. And like I said earlier, I'm willing to acknowledge that there are some really extreme Vic supporters out there, but I do think that it's really disingenuous to take that group of extremist fans and ascribe that to the whole movement.
Yeah.
And then this response, I think, hit the nail on the head, but here's what Jean said. Okay, centrist. Cool. Notice that to this person, calling them a centrist is actually considered an insult. I mean, people tend to try to aim towards being in the center, you know, not being biased and stuff. At least, I think. You know, I believe one of my government professors once said that when it comes to left and right, the majority tends to lean more towards the center. But I think it's funny because this person here seems convinced that centrist is an insult, apparently. Anyway, they continue. Disgusted with your lack of conviction, too, bud. Stand for something or people who have had lives destroyed.
People that threw wild accusations that have been proven false have,
Okay,
like,
can I
against a
just...
certain someone. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you finish your point first.
I was gonna say, you know, like, people have had their lives destroyed by wild accusations that have been proven false.
I was more or less going to say that. You know, I think that both are destructive. Rape destroys people's lives. False accusations also destroys people's lives. And I think that that's the importance of innocent until proven guilty. You see if the person is guilty and then destroy their life. But you don't destroy their life and run the risk of finding out that you ruined an innocent person. If Vic Mignogna is guilty, then he deserved to have his career destroyed. But if it turns out then he's innocent, well, what is everyone supposed to say? Oops. But anyway,
I highly doubt they're gonna say oops, but
yeah,
anyways.
but anyway, Kumiko says, if people want to defend a dude proven by dozens of first-hand accounts and witnesses to have committed serial sexual assault,
What?
be my guest, but you're right, I won't respect it, period. First of all,
What?
the whole point, the
Well,
whole argument here is that it hasn't been proven yet. He hasn't been convicted. He hasn't been proven guilty yet. I bet I'm starting to sound like a Vic supporter here. I really didn't want to sound like that, but come on, just because someone levies an accusation against you, even if it's multiple people, that alone is not that's not that's not proof. It's not a conviction.
and if
And
it is, then where's the links? Provide links.
yeah, and that's
Say
another
this.
thing. They don't provide their evidence. But anyway, Duo Review says clearly Nye's and I's advice was not needed at all, and Nye says I was not defending Vic at all. So here's the thing, Nye does think, I think, mentioned earlier that they do think Vic is guilty, but now this person, Kumiko, is kind of lumping them in because this person wanted to be reasonable. But anyway, person 2 says, I'm not a big fan of echo chambers. If you don't mind my abrasiveness, none of us are even trying to strongly argue against you either. We just don't like how hot this is getting. And then Mother's Basement says something. You think that this guy, being as influential a figure as he is, would have been the voice of reason in all of this? And tried to, put out the fire, but no, he says this. I get the be civil and polite angle, but it's really easy to say that as someone who doesn't realistically have to worry about being harassed or sexually assaulted at a con.
What?
Okay, so quick question. I do agree some people, particularly women, are definitely more likely to be sexually assaulted at a con, especially cosplayers. However, I don't think that that is a really good dismissal of be civil and polite, okay? I don't think that that's an excuse to throw civility out the window.
I'm not trying to turn this whole thing into a laughing matter or anything, but can you just imagine if there was a con that was like, I mean, that was more primarily made up of females, then all the males are like dressed in as characters from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Can you just imagine how that would go?
Yeah, I can imagine. So,
That's saying that I'm a fan of the show. I mean, it's okay.
I actually would like to get back into it. But
Yeah.
anyway, I need to delete some emails here really quick regarding this situation. Um, but yeah, anyway, person 4 just says, I don't understand what's even being argued here. Bananai says, I'm not defending Vic or anyone's actions similar to his at all. Let me be clear on that. And Kumiko says, we're all yelling over each other's heads here. Nais, I wasn't responding to you. Hence why I said, if people. Okay, fair enough. They weren't responding to Nais. I'll accept that, but the reply was still a bad one nonetheless. Um. Anyway, I'm gonna skip Jean's reply because it's not that important. Person 4 says, Duo, you said misinterpreted what Evan said, and you totally... Oh, I'm sorry. Duo said you misinterpreted what Evan said, and you totally derailed. And Kumiko says, Geoff by the way, for those of you who don't know, okay, let me rephrase it. Mother's Basement, that is 1000% it. That's really all I have to say on the matter. If I scroll up, um, they're responding to what Mother's Basement said about, you know, the whole be nice thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, this is what I mean by him having influence here. The guy, you know, he might have been able to put the fire out, but instead he poured gas on the fire by giving these people convinced that Vic is guilty, you know, a reason to throw out civility. But anyway, Gene says, man, people who I love have their lives freaking destroyed by sexual abuse, and the idea of civility around people tiptoeing around that fact makes me upset, and I won't apologize for that. Okay, here's the
What?
thing. If they were being dismissive of someone proven guilty of sexual assault, I could understand. But this situation is different because in this case, it is yet to be proven, and people are trying to say, wait for the conviction. I really think that this person, I agree, they are kind of derailing from the actual arguments being made. But anyway, person 2 says, none of us in this chat have to deal with that. I think we all realize that. Okay, I'm gonna skip Kumiko's response. Duo says, being polite should matter regardless. If that's so difficult to understand, then this chat is truly lost. And I agree completely.
Wow, like you said, the only voice of reason.
Yeah. Person 2 says, I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that. I don't know what people go through. This is why I don't engage. Kumiko says, all of this is ignoring the fact that I don't think anything anybody said to each other was that out of line, and that conversation has already ended respectfully. Okay, that conversation ended, but it was far from respectful. You took what the person said out of context. You accused them of being dismissive of the allegations when that wasn't the case. I think it's safe to say that that was far from respectful. Anyway, Duo cuts back in and says, the reason I brought it back up was because it was disgusting behavior and needed to be addressed, or no one would realize it was gross. Gene says, LMFAO.
Oh
That's,
boy.
well, that's a good way to evade responsibility or responding. And C says something regarding these guys. He says, you guys have moved so far to the left that you've warped the whole political compass to the point that even people on the left who have just remained consistent in their views are now viewed as alt-right.
Oh.
Now,
Oh.
I think that there are extremes in both sides, but I think at least for the people in this chat, I don't know about the grand scheme of people as a whole, but at least for the people in this chat, I think he's on to something, because these people seem to have moved so far in wrong direction that they are kind of starting to broaden the label here. Person 2 says, for the record, I was not okay with it, but the two in exchange made peace with it, and that's what matters most to me, I guess. Fair enough. I don't disagree with that. Mother's Basement then says, Duo C. Nyes, try to understand that what is a detached third-party conversation to you is something a lot of people have to live, and them getting heated about it is perfectly reasonable, even if it... Okay, here's the problem, Mother's Basement. Their feelings are not the hurt feelings being talked about. They're talking about people on your side getting their feelings hurt and becoming aggressive, you know? You're not really giving a good excuse for why this is getting so heated. Like, that is not an excuse to throw civility out the window. And I'd like to point out that a huge portion of this lack of civility hinged on taking Evan out of context here. So, anyway, Kumiko says, again, it concerns me that you would say the relatively tame stuff so-and-so said is disgusting while also saying you don't care about the Vic stuff. I'm super beyond done engaging with this. Peace, peace. So first of all, once again, this person's kind of being evasive. Duo says that they don't care about the Vic controversy. And regarding what G said, what they mean by the comment being disgusting is that the person was taking Evan out of context and being aggressive with them over it. That's what's being discussed here, but this person is so dense that they can't seem to get that through. And then Mother's Basement says, Nice, I know you're not 100% in agreement with them and you want to keep things chill. It's just maybe impossible to be chill about it for people who are living it. Once again, Mother's Basement. Way to pour gasoline on this. You had the power to put the fire out, given what an influential figure you are in the anime community, and instead you're making excuses for people to stop being civil. And I'm really, I hate to admit this, but I used to be a fan of yours. I used to love your content, but I really lost a lot of respect for you over this. Any thoughts, Patriot?
Oh, boy. It's only... Have you noticed that it's only when it's taken out of context is when they started getting all real heated about it while everyone else was trying hard to be civil about it.
And that's another thing. When is it wrong to argue that we all have a civil discussion? Like, seriously, how are those people the bad guy in this?
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to wrap my head around on this. I don't understand it.
Anyway, Duo says, I'm not discussing whether the conversation is relevant to them. I'm merely saying that there was no reason to be disrespectful to Evan, who basically did nothing wrong. Whether the issue is settled or not is what I mean. And then Duo continues by saying, it is not my place to discuss Vic, which is why I won't. And Bananise says, the subject of Vic and actions related to him aside, at the end of the day, this is a private chat I created. If you're here, I would like it if we could all talk with each other regardless of our different viewpoints with a level of respect for one another. You don't have to always agree, but I don't want this turning into a place where people are afraid to feel like they're in the minority. That's all. And bear in mind that this is coming from somebody who does think that the allegations are true. Or, at the very least, was not defending Vic.
Basically, he thinks that the allegations hold some water.
Yes, and then Jean has the dumbest response to what C says. Remember when C tells them that they've moved so far to the left that their political compass has been warped, and even people on the left who have remained consistent in their views are now viewed as alt-right? Jean's response to that is just, I LOL'd so hard. Doesn't explain what was wrong with the statement. They just do a little cop-out and say, I lolled,
So, they basically just proved C's point.
Well, by being dismissive of it, or maybe not dismissive, maybe just sidestepping it, I could say that Jean did not really respond to the comment. They just kind of say, Lol. And that was it.
Yeah,
Anyone? I'm
what
sorry, go
just,
ahead.
I guess what I should say, they're basically proving his point.
I would say that at this point, they are definitely making a case for him. But anyway, after that, Nyes and Duo just try to call for people to be more civil again. Person 2 says, I love everyone in this chat. For the record, even when it gets hot, this is chock full of sharp vocal, caring people. I don't get icky feelings from anyone, thank God. By caring, I mostly mean unapathetic, like they're bold enough to say something. They care. I appreciate them being being like trying to make peace, but anyway, Mother's basement once again just doesn't help. He says, "That's understandable and I want that too." Okay, good. Just try to recognize that saying have a detached perspective from what you're living is the opposite of fun for some people here. But here's the thing, you shouldn't let stuff like that color your judgment. Justice is supposed to be blind, and I get the feeling that these people are taking too hard a stance on we need to believe the accusers when, we don't have all the evidence at the table yet.
Yeah.
And then Kumiko says, recognize the privilege inherent to even begin being able to be civil about something like this. Once again, that's not really a valid case to justify being uncivilized, but I hate being a broken record. Anyway, Duo says, I'm never going to get through here clearly. If being respectful is this big a deal, then there is just no way I will be able to understand someone. Person 1 says, calling for politeness and a lack of emotion betrays the privilege to be able to have enough personal distance from these issues to not be made emotional by them. And policing people for not being nice in their condemnation of Vic's apologists, as they could be, betrays hugely misplaced priorities. And once again, I'm sorry, I think this is a bit of a red herring here. I don't see how this is a justification to not be civil. Is it really impossible to have a civil disagreement now? Like, is it really that hard to just sit down with people who disagree and, exchange why they think their case is right? Is that really too hard now?
I guess so. Which is sad. You wanna
Anyway,
know something
oh, I'm
you
sorry,
wanna
go
know
ahead, go ahead.
you wanna know something kind of interesting, and this is kind of going off track from this. There used to be a point in time when, and I don't know if it's even still a thing, where you would have Star Wars fans and Star Trek fans constantly going at each other's throat. There was no civil discussion, but now it's like the two of them, both sides are now pretty much at peace with each other.
Yeah, but anyway, Mother's basement cuts back in and says, like, Evan came in here saying stuff that makes Jean extremely uncomfortable, and she asked for that to. Okay, first of all, Jean took Evan out of context. How many times am I going to have to bring this up? Okay, and as for the statement that he might have not intended to cause hurt by saying that, but it caused hurt, and demanding that person hurt respond in a civil way is unfair to them,
What?
BS. I'm sorry, but BS. Evan was taken out of context. And here's the thing. When it comes to being outraged at a person, if you have a genuine reason to be outraged, then fine. But if your outrage is hinging on that person being taken out of context, then, or you taking them out of context, then that's your fault, not them. Evan clearly communicated what he meant to say, and Gene was the one who took him out of context. And Duo seems to agree here because Duo says Evan wasn't an apologist, though, so it was just rudeness for nothing. He's my friend and I don't appreciate his mistreatment. And person 4 says, I hate everyone now.
Well, hold on. Kind of going, the Gene here, he says Evan and him are cool.
Yeah.
So, Mother's Basement here is now putting words in its mouth.
Yeah.
And speaking for him when Gene didn't even ask for him to speak for him.
I mean, granted, Gene still maintained the position that he was wrong. They still made peace. But nonetheless, I do still would like to nail in the point that Gene was being unfair earlier in the discussion.
Yeah, he was definitely being unfair.
And anyway, Mother's Basement says, sorry, I was mistaking Evan for C.
Okay.
Person 1 says, getting heated and arguing with a friend is different from picking a fight with a random person. And then Gene says this, I respect the heck out of Evan. He just said something that bugged me. Do I even have to say it again?
Well, there goes that.
Okay, so yeah. I mean, I'm glad that y'all are still friends, but Gene, if you ever see this video, you were the one who chose to take Evan out of context. That's on you, okay? I'm sorry. Let's see. That's kind of irrelevant to the discussion. Duo says, I just want people to be treated like human beings, and I agree. That's one of the reasons I don't like talking about this controversy. Let's see. Person 1 then requotes Evan's message from earlier, and Mother's Basement responds by saying, this linear track of multiple non-linear conversations is hard to follow. I agree. Well, I think the reason that is the case is because there's too much strawmanning and sidestepping going on here. Anyway. But here's what person 1 says. And frankly, leaving the possibility of Vic's innocence as open as Evan did in that inciting message is offensive enough to warrant a calling out. So, leaving it open to the possibility that someone could be innocent is offensive now.
So, what isn't offensive?
My gosh, like, now I'm convinced these people have an agenda here, you know. I'm sorry, but I think that they're invested in Vic being guilty now. And, you know, I still maintain my neutrality. I don't know if he is or isn't, but I think that there's something inherently wrong in being invested in an outcome like this. Seriously, saying that it's offensive to leave the possibility of innocence open, and saying that that's offensive enough to warrant calling out, no, that was just being a jerk. I'm sorry, but these people are so dense here. Duo pretty much echoes what I had to say. Calling out in that way is not a fair way to react. Person 4 says, Duo, you shouldn't have brought it back up, especially since Gonzo was over and already made your same point of view, but way shorter. To be honest, the only reason Duo brought it back up was because Duo wanted to enforce the point that they should be nice and civil next time. Because they all pretty much jumped down Evan's throat on this one. But anyway, let's see what else is going on. We're almost at the end of this nightmare, by the way. Thank God. Let's see. let's see, person 2, that's whatever at this point. More of a deal has been made about the responses to the message than was made over the message itself. I agree. Kumiko says, but I'm still struggling to see where Jean didn't treat it. Oh my gosh. The person who's been overblowing things is accusing the other people of overblowing things. The reason Jean wasn't treating Evan like a human being was because they jumped down his throat for supposedly dismissing the accusations, despite the fact that they didn't actually do that. My gosh. Let's see. When what Gene's guilty of is talking a bit more harshly than he maybe should have to a guy he's friends with, okay, I'm glad we can come to that agreement. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Evan wants this conversation to end. I don't blame him, to be honest. Let's see. Then they just kind of get into some banter on some stuff. Let's see. Okay, so pretty much
So pretty much it just kind of...
yeah, it pretty much kind of tapers off here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my Discord. And I'm going to take away the window capture here. Oh wait, no, what am I doing? I don't have to do that. All I have to do is just switch it over to the Discord. Wait, whoops, wrong one. Gosh darn it. Come on, Discord. Work with me. Here's a tweet that I saved. Here's another thing regarding Mother's Basement. I'll try to read it out because it is kind of small. Let me just pull it up on my phone so I can let me see, where is it? Let's see. Okay, wait a minute. Let's see. It'll be stuff that... Okay, here it is. So, this person here says this is possibly one of the most ridiculous attempts to dodge I've ever seen. Mother's Basement says, it feels unfair to get attacked for just wanting to know for sure. I get that. And right there, I'm in agreement. But, as is the case with a lot of these things, most people will never know the whole story. I agree with that. Banging down doors and attacking people who have provided info won't change that. And that is something that I'd like to say, what the heck, that was already proven false. That there were the photos that person showed as evidence were taken in 2016 before this controversy even blew up. So yeah, but anyways, this other Twitter user says, I can't speak for everyone in the I stand with Vic side, but I haven't attacked anyone. I just find it hard to ignore the fact that no one wants to give evidence. The fact that they're fabricating evidence, faking swatting, lying, threatening, and just flat out being rude. And here's Mother's Basement's response. You have a hashtag campaign to fire someone who has only come forward about her own abuse in your Twitter bio. That's not neutral, that's an attack on her.
Wow.
Now, Can I just say that his response had absolutely nothing to do with her tweet? Like like she makes a point about people on the kickfix side fabricating evidence, and he completely ignores that by and you know, this goes back to what I said regarding Manga Common statement. You know, you can't claim that all of the faults are on one side while claiming, how did he say, you can't claim that all of the faults are on one side whilst failing to acknowledge the faults and on your own side. And what seems to be happening here is this person pointed out the faults on his side, and he just sidestepped it and tried to make it about the I stand with Vic crowd. Well, that's it really. This was all I had to say. You know, I'm disappointed that this was a discussion that we had. I really am. I really hope that we don't have to talk about this. Like I said, I'm not on the kick Vic side. I am not on the stand with Vic side. But I still believe in civility, and I still believe in waiting till a conviction has been made to prosecute someone. And the only reason I brought this up was because I feel that there was a lot of unfairness going on, and like I said, I was really disappointed in a figure as influential as Mother's Basement, you know, not trying to put out the fire and essentially trying to make a case for being uncivil. Your final thoughts, Hidden Patriot?
Well, like I said, I'm basically kind of in between. You know, I'm just waiting for all the evidence to come out, but I'm also on more of the I stand with Vic side. And the reason why for that is because I am just, how should I put this? When the whole Me Too movement started, it showed that there was an issue. But this, the way I see it, because of this whole Me Too movement, it has now been weaponized,
I
and that's
I think that's
what I
fair.
am against. That is what I am against. I'm just tired of seeing people's lives being ruined and then having this whole mob mentality that, oh, we need to burn someone at the stake. Everyone get your pitchforks and torches out without so much as a shred of evidence to prove if they even did it or not.
And I can see where you're coming from on this. My thoughts: rape destroys people's lives. False accusations destroys people's lives, and this is why we have trials and stuff, to make
Yeah, and
sure
it,
that we're going after the right person. And whatever happens, you know, whether Vic is convicted, whether he's proven innocent, you know, all that I'm asking for is that we be more civil to each other, and two, that the truth comes out. That when the truth comes out, you know, there's no agendas, there's no personal investment into what the truth is, you know, that's just it.
yep, I agree.
Well, anyway, I think I've rambled on long enough. The stream has gone on for almost 2 hours now, so that being said, I'm sorry for talking about such a gloomy topic here, but I just had to get this off my chest, guys. Yeah, so if anyone has any responses, please be respectful about it. You want to debate, fine, but just be civil. If you're going to make any claims or anything, be sure to back up said claims. That's all I have to say. Thank you guys for watching. You have a wonderful day.
Wait. Can I just say one thing real quick?
Sure.
So, for anyone out there that's going to be celebrating St. Patrick's Day, I hope you all have a wonderful day. If y'all are going to be doing a little bit of partying. Make sure you know your limits. And if you're going to be going out with some friends, at least make sure you have a designated driver with you.
Don't drink and drive. Bye-bye, everyone.